There was a mother and a father who had a son. They lived in a small village and didn't have much money, but they were happy. One day they heard the head of their country was sending soldiers to their town because he thought they were part of an insurrection. The young family decided to flee. They grabbed only what they could carry and ran. They hiked for days, wondering if soldiers might still be following them. They were scared, hungry, and exhausted. But they were far away from the atrocities taking place in Bethlehem. That's all Mary and Joseph wanted, a safe place to call home. A reading from the Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 2, verses 13 to 23. If you'd like to read along, you can find it on page 2 of the New Testament section of your Red Pew Bible. Now, after the Magi had left, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night, and went to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I have called my son." Now when Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he was infuriated, and he sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had learned from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled because they are no more. Now when Herod died, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel. For those who were seeking the child's life are dead." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was ruling over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And after being warned in a dream, he went away to the district of Galilee. There he made his home in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled. He will be called a Nazarene. God, give us ears to hear, eyes to see, and hearts that are open to receive and respond to your word, your message to us this day. Now, most everyone knows the Christmas story, right? The star, the shepherds, the manger, the magi. We looked at that part last week. But there's one chapter in the story of Jesus' birth that is often neglected or overlooked or not read about, quite possibly because of its horrific nature. We read that after the Magi from the east visited Mary and Joseph, King Herod requested that they disclose where the young king of the Jews was to be born. But they were warned in a dream, and so the Magi departed and went home back to Persia a different way, without telling King Herod of Jesus' whereabouts. As we mentioned last week, he was a very bad ruler. He was a very bad dictator, and he used violence and fear to rule his people, even killing 2 of his own sons, which we know historically, because he was suspicious of them. So Herod, as you can imagine, was enraged and threatened by this new potential ruler. And so tragically, he ordered all male 2-year-old boys, 2 years and younger, to be killed. With Herod's henchmen bearing down on Bethlehem, Joseph and Mary fled with their young child to Egypt. And if you travel to Egypt, you can see the different places that tradition has it that the Holy Family stopped and received aid and received shelter and where they lived for a while. You can actually take a pilgrimage tour to all of those spots in Egypt. But can you imagine the circumstances? 2 young parents warned in a dream, middle of the night, let's say, to grab their toddler and whatever they could carry on their backs and flee their country. There was no safety for them in their homeland. So the only option for them was to seek foreign soil. Think about the challenges and the difficulties of having to make that long journey to a country that was not your home, a language that probably you did not speak. Now, we don't know much about their time in Egypt or how long, but it could have been multiple months, if not longer, that they were there. But we can imagine that they probably tried to stay hidden as long as possible to keep their child safe and out of harm's way. Parents will do anything to protect their children and also to provide a better future for their children than perhaps they had when they were children. So being young, being poor, and being Jewish, it's very unlikely that they spoke Egyptian. It's possible that the young family sought and found shelter from other Jewish communities scattered throughout Egypt. We know Alexandria had a very strong, prominent Jewish community. They might have found shelter in one of the synagogues that we know were there. Archaeological digs have found these ancient Jewish synagogues all along the path from Israel down to Egypt. So perhaps they found refuge and they found safety in some of those communities. More than likely they did. Also, we know that they were gifted by the Magi with some gifts. So probably the gold that the Magi gave, not understanding fully the intents or how the family would use that, probably helped fund them to be able to flee and to save Jesus' life. Like this family, many refugees today are forced to flee their homes due to violence, persecution, threats to their safety. They are not safe in their homeland. Their only option is to try to escape, if they have the means to do so, if they have the resources to do so, if they have the connections to do so, and many do not. Like Mary and Joseph, many refugees today must undertake long and dangerous journeys, often on foot or by boat, in order to reach a place of safety. Along the way, they too may face danger or hunger or illness or other hardships as well. These refugees have a challenge of finding a place to call home once they arrive in a new country. Many today may not speak the native language of where they're going to. They may not even share the same religious affiliations of this new country where they find themselves. But like that first Holy Family, who were welcomed and given shelter by a community of faith in Egypt, many refugees today are also welcomed and supported by communities of faith, communities of people who are willing to offer them a helping hand. And when we realize that we have been blessed in order to be a blessing to others, that God freely welcomes us, we are empowered to freely welcome others and to provide the necessary resources for them to be able to make a life here in America here in the great state of Vermont and other places where these refugees find themselves trying to make a new life for them and for their children. You think about the story of Jesus, and I'm sure communities that rallied around to keep this child safe so that he wouldn't be killed. And all that Jesus ended up doing in his whole life for all of humanity. You never know the impact of saving one person's life, saving one child's life. Who might this child grow up to be? How may this child end up impacting the world around us? Some of these children around our world will never know because their lives tragically will be cut too short because of violence, oppression, poverty. Some of them will never have educational or other opportunities to develop into the person that they could be because of where they live. But here, in this great state, those opportunities can be given to them and granted to them to make a life, to give them hope and a future. So we don't glance over that story in the Bible. We look at it and realize it has implications for us as individuals and as a community of faith here in Stowe. We remember the story of the Holy Family's escape to Egypt, a family on the run. But as we remember that story, let us also remember the many hundreds of thousands of modern-day refugees who are seeking safety and a new start in life. And let us do what we can to support and assist them in their journey. One of the ways in which we do that is to partner with great organizations, such as we have today. And so I am delighted to welcome Rachel Cogbill to speak on behalf of the Central Vermont Refugee Action Network. Please know that Rachel will be here afterwards to answer questions that you might have. There's information in our bulletin, on our website, Instagram, Facebook, this whole month, lifting up this great organization in ways and opportunities that you can contribute, events that you can attend, ways that you can volunteer your time, your talent, and your resources to help them welcome people. So Rachel, on behalf of Stowe Community Church, welcome.
I'm so glad to see all of you. Again, I'm from the Central Vermont Refugee Action Network, and you are on the periphery of Central Vermont. I got a call yesterday from a family, from an advocate for a family here in Stowe, asking for help. And I had to say, we are at capacity, and we don't have very many people in your area who are helping, with whom we've connected. And please give us your name, but you're going to be on our list, but you're going to be a little ways down because it's easier to help people in the Montpelier area where most of our volunteers are. It would be so wonderful if I could say, but we have people in Stowe, they're forming a team and they can help you. That would be incredible. So it feels very serendipitous that you would be here and that you would be looking at these issues just when the need is being made, again, manifest in your area. Some of you live in Stowe. I know some of you probably live a little further afield. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of people who have called and asked for help. There are people in your construction industry here. There are people who are in the hotel industry. Many of them are Spanish speakers. Many of them come, as we have always thought of migrant workers coming to work on farms. The same thing is happening, but in construction, in hotels. Everywhere you go, you see help needed, help needed. And these people come in, they need to support themselves, they look for jobs that they can get. And they take jobs that aren't being filled. They arrive, and just as Pastor Dan said, they don't speak the language, they don't know our culture, they don't necessarily have helpers to help them figure out the legal system, to help them figure out the educational system, to help them get daycare for their children. In your bulletin, or I guess on the website, there's a picture of a 2-year-old from Waterbury who's one of the ones we're helping. And his English is non-existent. His Spanish and his Quechua, which is his family's native language, he can understand everything in 2 languages. But he's not talking very much yet because he is spending all of his time with his family and not so much with other children. We're trying to get him to the story hour. We're trying to get him to the dentist. He and many people who have lived in poor situations have mouths full of cavities. They've never been to the dentist. They need to get there. We need medical care for these same people. We need legal help. There is somebody in Stowe that is being taken by one of our volunteers down to Boston in next week because our legal system demands they check in Boston. How will they get there without help? We have other people from Stowe who have to go check in St. Albans. Even getting to St. Albans is hard if you don't have a car, you don't have a license, and you are working hours and hours. So those are some of the situations we're dealing with right in Stowe, right in Waterbury. I have gone to the adult basic education class with some of our clients in Waterbury, and somebody comes up to me and says, "Can you help?" And I say, "If only, give me your name, but if only I could say yes right now." I know you are all already doing good works. It's always hard to choose, but I'm very glad to be in the position to say, we would love your help. I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to just go ahead and talk quickly. I'm sure I'm probably already at 3 minutes. But on Tuesday, the 17th, in Montpelier at the Senior Center, as it says in your bulletin, there is a meeting of people interested in CV-RAN to hear panels of some of our clients, some of our teams that work with people. We're looking for a team, if we could do it in Waterbury, Stowe. Somebody to deal with the medical, somebody to deal with the legal, just getting somebody to the right lawyer, our pro bono lawyer, or somebody in, wherever it happens to be. There's legislation that needs working on. So there are all sorts of ways people can help. If you're able to make it Tuesday to Montpelier at 5 at the Senior Center, that's one possibility. If you'd rather instead go to your internet and listen to a radio show about the work, you can go to WGDR and listen to the program from Friday on Gathering Peace, when I and the volunteer coordinator were talking for an hour about Central Vermont Refugee Action Network. If you would like to put in some time individually and volunteer, go to our website. You can see pictures of a lot of the people we work with. Currently, it's 28 people we're formally working with from many different countries speaking many different languages. And we're also working with the Afghan refugees who are settled in Montpelier. You can also, if you are an artist or a writer or a quilter or a photographer, and you want to be part of our March Arts Marathon, which earns money for helping people, there is a flyer on the card table in the entryway that will tell you about how to do that. We're signing up people right now for March, artists of any sort or sponsors of artists. And there is even something about equal exchange products which you can buy and benefit these people. Each fundraiser was dreamed up by somebody like you who was trying to think of ways to help. So, I will be available in the back for questions. I'd like to leave you with the great benefit that each of these people coming into our community provides for us. It might be on an individual level. It might be holding that 2-year-old in your lap during the story hour. It might be talking to someone as you drive them to Boston about their home country of Venezuela and hearing all about it. It might be making new friends and maybe being invited to a wedding, which was held in Stowe, 2 of these people. The schools in Stowe have been wonderful and welcoming to the children. Sometimes they have reached out to us. Sometimes they've arranged camps. Some of your children may be going to school with some of the children who have come here, walking, perhaps, from South America, maybe across that Darien Gap, which we hear so much about. They're people in need of a welcome, and you might be part of providing that. Thank you.